Don Global presents the DG Recruit podcast on everything headhunting and recruitment. Achieve the life and career you envision. What's up, game changers? It's your host, Don, founder of Don Global, the headhunting and career coaching company helping you achieve the life and career you envision. In today's DG Recruit podcast, we will cover something that I hope will be especially useful to you now that business is turning. It's become definitely more of a buyer of talent market, as in client driven. We're headed there. So this is going to really help you niche down on how you're going to write a killer good recruitment sales email. So as a salesperson in recruiting since day one, my job half of the time as a headhunter was to land accounts, because when I joined the firm, we had zero accounts, literally zero, not a single account on file that I could monetize. So I had to get my own accounts, and the best way to do it, I have figured out, and I will share with you today, because this is literally what I used to do to generate hundreds of thousands of dollars in very short time. Just to give you an idea, you may have heard me drop my billing numbers before, but in my first year of recruiting in 2011, just bear in mind the inflation that's happened, I billed over $330,000 in my first year off of my own accounts from a standing start of absolutely nothing. And that means absolutely no candidates. That means absolutely no clients. I genuinely had nothing. So these are the ways that I got clients. And I did it through email prospecting to a great degree. In fact, email prospecting to the right client is the easiest way to reach out to them. Nowadays, social media is taking a forefront, so you absolutely can do the same thing. Utilize this candidate profile to drive engagement via LinkedIn for sure. You can use the same principles I'm going to go over today. You can absolutely use them on LinkedIn as much as you can on video. The theory remains the same. What I'm going to teach you today is how to craft very enticing candidate stories so that you inevitably will catch the client's eye, because you are really doing something very different than the majority of recruiters out there. Because keep in mind, just as much as you want a client, so does all of your competition. So in order to win, it's not about competing with them. It's about creating your own approach that is absolutely going to get clients to buy into you, to buy into your candidate. And of course, I'm talking about your MPC, most placeable candidate. Now, back at S3, the first company I ever worked for 5 years, I didn't even know that this was the term, but apparently a lot of other people call it this. So it's the most placeable candidate. What is the candidate profile that is the most interesting to your clients? That is your MPC. And for me, when I first started off, I'm just going to give you an example. When I first started off, I was recruiting for regulatory writers. Now, this is a niche, and to create MPC documents and to create the right sell-ins and candidate send-outs, as we termed it. A send-out is somebody that you literally send out to a client, mostly via email. Now, like I said, you could do this on LinkedIn. You can also do it through email. I think email is more appropriate for send-outs when you're shooting off this MPC to prospective clients. And the reason why email is better is because it buys you a little bit more social contract to write a slightly longer pitch. Because this is the problem with LinkedIn messages. LinkedIn messages are more organic. You're not better served to do really long form messages on LinkedIn, because people's natural gut read is to say no, is to delete, is to avoid, is to block, is to mark spam. So LinkedIn is really good for short-term content, in my view. Short term, like, hello, would love to chat with you, love your background, when is good. That's how short I'm talking about. Because if you are receiving any prospective emails or reach outs specifically through LinkedIn, if it's too long, you immediately will feel that you are being spammed. And being spammed is not a winning strategy. So this is specifically about email. I really want to talk about MPC being delivered via email or being delivered via video. Either way, it's better if it's coming through email format, because emails, if you hit the right person, they will read it, because people are curious and they will read. If they find something interesting, they will read. In LinkedIn, again, it's more quick, it's more fast connection.
again, I can't stress this enough. You've got to use the right format to deliver your MPC. And for me, email is the best. So let's talk about what goes into that sales email and what goes into that MPC email, right? So MPC, the first tip is that it's got to be exactly right to your niche. You cannot send an MPC of a biostatistician to a regulatory affairs manager. You just can't do that. It has to be niche. You have to submit the right candidate MPC profile to the right recipient. So that's the first step, is you've got to be super niche on your email fields. This has got to be the right person to send your right candidate to. Now, this is also about how the market works, right? The niche as a headhunter is key. So number one, make sure you're selling to the right niche. That's kind of obvious, but I can't not say it, because you cannot expect a regulatory writer candidate to catch the eye of a biostatistician. That is not the right sale. And then the biostatistician too is not going to then forward your regulatory writing profile to the regulatory writing manager. That is not what they're going to do. They're going to be hella annoyed if that is what you even expect them to do, because it's so far out of their remit and social obligation to do so, being that you're a total external rando stranger. And they don't owe you anything. So the niche has to be there. It's got to be the right niche. It's got to be an MPC that speaks to a niche and going to the right client. Number two is that it has to have tons of very realistic details. Now, these details cannot be just technical jargon. It can't just say, oh, this person knows how to write CSRs, IBs, and protocols. Now, that's what a regulatory writing person does. It can't just say that. You also have to customize it based on location. So if I'm prospecting a client that is based in New Jersey, I will 100% say my candidate lives right down the street from y'all in Little Falls, right? If this client, I always will Google the distance, and I will create the exact sale so that it matches their location down to about 20 to 30 miles. You want to sell exactly to the need. So I'm not going to sell a Princeton candidate to Tarrytown, New York. I'm going to sell a Princeton candidate to a Trenton or a Princeton or a Hamilton. I'm going to pick the right location to then prospect the candidate to, because it has to have that detail. You cannot negate the importance of location. In fact, location is critical to get clients' interest, because guess what everyone else is sending them? I have a remote candidate based in California. That's not relevant. I want to sell exactly to the exact need, so the location has to be there and critically aligned. So we talked about keywords. We talked about location. Let's talk about years of experience. Years of experience also is important, because you want to show them that your candidate is right on the money, and you have to know your market. So if you're selling to a manager of medical writing, that person usually has about anywhere from 4 to 8 years of experience. You cannot be sending a manager of medical writing a VP of medical writing. That don't make no sense. You cannot send someone that is beyond their pay grade to the person. Kind of obvious, but a lot of people just send it to everybody. You gotta get it right, because you have to understand that if you don't, you look like an idiot, because God forbid someone actually reads your email, they will be like, what is wrong with this person? Why did they send me a VP when I'm a manager? Why would I have the ability or the privilege to hire a VP, being that I'm a manager? How could I jump above and hire above myself? That doesn't make any sense. So you always have to go 1 degree above your MPC. So if your MPC is manager level, sell it to the VP. If your candidate is a VP level, sell it to the regulatory writing head, right? The absolute person at the top of the food chain. Where does this function fly into? Sell it to the boss. Sell it to the person who's at the tippity top of that pyramid. So a senior medical writer, I can submit to a manager, and I can submit to a VP, and I can submit to the VP's VP, right? I can do it to all of these because they are at the bottom of the totem pole. So again, the details have to be right in terms of seniority. And Again, if you get it right, it's a very much aligned rapport building effort. If you get it right, your clients will really respect you because they're like, oh, wow, this person consistently sends me the right profiles at the right levels, right? Because then they can see consistently that you are constantly hitting the nail on the head. You're the bomb. You're the best, right? So the details matter. Now, the next step, number 3, is the story. Not only do the details, the keywords, the thing the person does have to make sense, the story also matters. Can't just be, oh, hey, I got someone who knows how to write regulatory writing documents and they live right down the street. Can't just be that. What's their story? What's the deal? Right? There's got to be a story here. Can't just be like, oh, hey, look, I work for Marc Jacobs. Here's a purse. I sell purses. Here's a purse. I mean, that's not really great. Right? So we got to sell them a story. So a story example could be, hey, this candidate really enjoys where they work, but they've been at the firm for like 2 years now, and they're just starting to think about their career, and they're starting to be interested in other projects locally. Okay, that makes sense. Right? What's another storyline? It could be this candidate is now realizing that in his or her seniority, obviously you have to specify the gender, or you cannot. You can say they or them. That's fine. Right? Whatever makes you feel comfortable. But let's say I'm talking about a female senior medical writer who has been at the same company for 4 years now. They're getting a little sick of it. They kind of want to progress, but there is very little mobility because they work at a humongous pharma company where all the senior leadership is relatively there. They're not moving. So this lady, her issue is she has ambition. She wants to move up the food chain. She would like to elevate herself in possibly a principal or even managing position, but it's not physically possible where she currently is, because where she currently is a large pharma company, and there's a ton of people with more experience than her, with more tenure than her, and it's a relatively not nimble environment for her to progress in. Therein lies the RFL, reason for leaving. Right? This is why the candidate is working with me, and she wants to look through my network of what pharmaceutical companies and biotech businesses that I work with. So I figured I'd reach out to you and see what you think of her profile, right? That's the story. The story has to be told. Now, why am I getting this email, right? Is it just like, oh, here you go, random person off the street. Okay, bye. No, I want the story. What's the deal? The more real it sounds, the more I'm interested, right? So the story matters. Now, as you come about to the middle to the end of the email, where is your solid ask? Of course, now you have to ask for something. And I see a lot of emails where it's like the ask is really bad. And you may have seen me critique some of these sales messages I get. The critique is really harsh because they end kind of like a wet potato, just like totally not exciting, right? Where's the ask? There's no ask. There's no closing question. There's no next step being desired. It just literally ends. The email's just like, let me know. Let you know what? Like, what's the deal? What the hell was that whole freaking spiel about if there's no freaking ask? Right? So we need a solid ask. What is your solid ask? Let me give you a few examples. A solid ask could be, I'd love to hear about growth in your team this year, what your growth plans are, when might be a good time to briefly connect on this. That is one ask. Another ask could be, hey, just want to see if this profile is right for you. When is best so I could just give you some additional information. Even if this isn't the right candidate, I'd still love to, grab 5 minutes to quickly chat and make your acquaintance. That's an ask, right? Like a serious goddamn ask, right? It could be like, hey, when is best to connect? I'd really like to talk to you. You have one of the strongest teams of medical writing. Just want to make sure we're aware of each other. Boom, there you go, another ask, right? You just have to ask for something, right? Hey, even if you are not seeking candidates, I'd still love to understand what you may think of a profile like this. If you're ever open to a conversation, please do let me know. I'd love to chat at your earliest convenience. Keep in touch. That's a nicer, less aggressive, non-assumptive close ask, right? Because assumptive close is like, when is best for you, assuming that they're going to want to talk to you, which is fine. Experiment with that. obviously the closing question, it could be a question, it could be a statement. Experiment. See what is getting results for you. So your solid ask has to be there. Can't just be let me know. Can't just be what are your thoughts. It's got to be more than that. It's got to say, I want to talk to you. I need to speak with you. I really want to see if this might be the right profile for you. It's going above and beyond and really asking for some kind of engagement, not just wanted to let you know. Wanted to let you know is useless. We want to convert wanted to let you know to let me get to know you. And that's the goal of this MPC email, is to ultimately convert into a more active engagement that is beyond digital means. You want to actually have a converted conversation into the phone ideally. Now, number 5, I always add a killer resume to my candidate sendouts. Why? Because I want the people to know that this is real. This is a real profile. And I have a cachet of profiles. So I'll twist and tweak and maneuver and build different profiles. And I always have the resume that matches that profile. It doesn't have company names on it. It doesn't have client names on it. It doesn't have candidate names on it. It doesn't even have school names. What I want to do is create this really, really awesome, excellent, real life looking resume / executive summary when I did executive search, right? Whatever it is I'm prospecting, it has the actual details because it makes the profile real. It's not just like a lazy, like, hey, I got this candidate, thought I'd let you know, blah, blah, blah. It's a real, hey, look, I got a person. This is their goddamn resume. Are you interested to move forward? Do you want to talk to this candidate? Right? You're prospecting cold clients. You have to have the balls to actually send in real life resume samples. Now, as to, is this a real human being? That is your own damn choice. I'm not going to tell you what to do. All I can say is when I was prospecting, you bet I have all the candidates under the sun. Whether or not they're the ones that I actually submit to interview once I get the MSA signed, that's a different story. Maybe in the interim that we were negotiating the MSA and the fees and the terms, this candidate got snatched off the market. Instead, I got these 2 other candidates for you. That's how I look at this situation. I will tell you I never got in trouble for this, and nor should I. Sales is sales. All I have to do is show you this is what I understand about the market, get engaged in a conversation. That's ultimately what matters. As to that initial resume submitted, it's not even the point. That's just the entryway. Your MPC is your entryway into the conversation. All right? So these are some general tips that I figured I'd share with you. And I'd leave you with this one thing. You got to make your profile and the candidates that you're submitting exclusive. And this is something that I've always complained and banged on about, is you got to have exclusive candidate, because if you don't have product. Your product is shit, right? I actually want to have exclusive candidates that other people are not working with, because that forces the client to then work with me to get at this exclusive network. And the whole point is to operate your business with a sense that exclusivity matters. And that's what you're selling to the client as well. You can say this candidate just is starting to look at the market. They're working with me exclusively. I'm excited to see if you might be interested in them. And I'm going to my network of top firms to first ask if they'd be interested. You were on that list. That's what that's saying to them, right? You can put it in different ways. You can experiment with the copy. But the idea is this is not just some random candidate that's working with 20 recruiters. It is a candidate that I have built a relationship with without signing up through me. You will not see this candidate profile because I will place them somewhere else. Is the hidden threat. There is an unspoken threat that if you do not sign my MSA, if you do not align with me as your vendor, you will not see this profile. It's a quid pro quo. If you do not engage with me, you do not then see my candidate. Right? Like, I'm not just going to give you free submittals. What is this? Like a charity? No, this is a business. I run my business. So the client needs to know that you're not messing around. You are not messing around. You are very much being serious. That you got something special. If you want to be part of this club, you better engage with me. If you are cool without this club, you do you. Know that this candidate I'm placing with your competitors. All right. So that's kind of the general gist of what the MPC has to have. Obviously, some of the stuff I've talked about is more subconscious. So the way you can write it out doesn't have to be as explicit, but every single line, every single word should be carefully scrutinized, should be carefully checked, should be made sure that it is pristine copy. Your copy is everything. If you have a shitty copy, your client can only assume that you are a shitty recruiter, rightfully so. If you don't even know how to write English well, I mean, what can you do right as a salesperson, right? This is critical. This is a communications-based job. Funny story, most English majors do very well in recruiting because they know how to write emails. This is a critical piece of the business. If you want to do high-end, especially, written marketing documents, which is required for executive search and above, right? Mid-level, senior level, you need strong writing skills. And the best way to illustrate them is by writing excellent sales copy in your candidate submittals. Now, I hope you really enjoy this. And in my next podcast, stay tuned, because I will be sharing with you more ways that you can write actual candidate submits once you're in with the client and you're ready to submit real candidates. How can you do it? What are the different tips and tricks I use to put my candidates in the best light possible? So let's go through that. I'll give you a few examples and we can continue helping you up your game when it comes to client interaction and getting further with business development. As usual, I'm going to end my podcast with a plea for reviews. If this podcast has ever given you an ounce of joy, an ounce of motivation, an ounce of helpful tips, do drop us a review. Your reviews are everything, and we're killing it. We're doing much better than other recruitment podcasts because of your reviews. So every review counts. Please do leave me a 5-star review if you have a minute. That is the best way to thank me for putting out this content. And do not hesitate. Reach out, contact@dgrecruit.com if you have any specific topics that need to be addressed in the podcast. I'm always looking for topics and I'm eager to make that content for you.
I hope DG Recruit is helping you understand the realities, challenges, and opportunities when it comes to headhunting and recruitment. Whether you're already a top biller or an aspiring headhunter, I'd love to get to know you. Sign up at donnaglobal.com to stay in touch on all aspects of career coaching and headhunting. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll see you there. Thanks for tuning in to DG Recruit. This has been a production of Donna Global.